Hi folks, it's FPL General here again, recording another episode of my 59th minute FPL podcast. Recording on Tuesday morning, the 9th of April. So blank game week 33 is just behind us. I'll do a quick review of that shortly. Looking ahead now to game week 34, which has Brighton and Cardiff playing a double game week, and then more so looking ahead to game week 35, the big double game week. So I'm on my wildcards activated on Friday night after the Liverpool game. So this episode is going to be a wildcard special episode / bench boost 35 because that's my plan. So really I'm looking ahead to the rest of the season now rather than just game week 34, which is the upcoming game week. So I know not everybody is on a wildcard this week, but this episode is going to be mainly focused around what I'm doing and my plans for the rest of the season. So even if you're not on a wildcard, you will still get useful information from this because, you're still going to be looking at the same players that I am for the next couple of weeks. So what I'll do is, the structure of this podcast, I'll do the shout-outs first of all, a short review of blank game week 33, and then I'll move into the meat of the pod. So I'm going to do a wildcard watch list. So I'm going to run through all the teams that have a double game week 35, talk about the players I'm interested in. I'm going to touch on the single game week teams as well to see if there's any of those I'm interested in keeping. I didn't touch my wildcard squad until this morning since Friday night. So I've had a quick tinker for this podcast. Well, once I run through all the teams and the players I'm interested in, I'll reveal what my current draft is for the wildcard. Then I will take 5 or 6 questions from Twitter. I've picked out a few of the best ones there. Talk a little bit about captaincy as well for game week 34. And then I'll just wrap things up. So quite a bit to get through in this episode. It's probably going to be a bit longer than usual. So I'm just going to get stuck straight into it. So shoutouts first of all for blank game week 33. I haven't done these for a while. It's been harder to keep track of them because of the blanks and doubles and things like that. But a few shoutouts this week. Alex Pritchard from Huddersfield managed 59 minutes exactly. So well done, Pritchard, on your 1 point. A couple of notable mentions here as well. Harvey Barnes, who was in my team, just about made it to 60 minutes. So it would have been very frustrating if he had played 1 minute less. This Barnes has been disappointing anyway. Hasn't been getting too many attacking returns, and he's gone now on my wildcard. Just 2 more notable mentions here. 2 Liverpool lads, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Gini Wijnaldum. So Klopp made that double substitution in the 58th minute. In that game at the weekend. So a notable mention for those 2. Trent didn't miss out on the clean sheet anyway because they'd already conceded, so not a huge deal there really. So moving on now to just a quick review of how blank game week 33 went for me. It felt very odd. I had a good game week, a very good game week for a change. I'd actually forgotten what it feels like to have a good game week, so I ended up with a game week rank of 124,000, which is pretty good. 77 points. And a very healthy green arrow. I went from, I think it was 441k to 295k. So that looks a lot better after just one game week. So 2 green arrows in a row now. So I call that momentum. And hopefully I can just finish the season with 5 more green arrows and get as close to that top 100k as possible. It's still achievable. So I haven't given up hope on that top 100k finish. So the heroes were Vardy, 16 points, and I captained Hazard as well for his 32. So that was the main bulk of the points. I had Wan-Bissaka in defence and Pereira, and then Salah chipped in as well. So a very good game week. And as I said, hopefully I can just bring that momentum in now to the next couple of game weeks. With wildcard left, triple captain left, and bench boost as well. So no excuses not to finish the season strongly. Moving on now, looking ahead. Nobody wants to look back too much, so I'm gonna look ahead now. So wildcard watch list. What I've done is just noted down all the teams that played twice in 35. I've noted down the players that I'm interested in. So these are the players that are going to be under consideration for my wildcard squad this week. So starting off, no particular order. Starting off with Spurs. The players I've noted down here are Harry Kane, Son, Eriksen, Lloris the goalkeeper. And then I've just wrote down defender ? So with Spurs, they have. I'm just getting the fixtures up in front of me here as well. Spurs have got great fixtures. They do have, like City and Liverpool United, they do have Champions League rotation, which is a big worry as well when it comes to FPL. But I think Kane is one of the first names on my wildcard squad, and I don't think he's going anywhere. We know with Kane, he plays most of the game, so we don't need to worry too much about that. I think he's a very good captain option as well for Gameweek 34, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So Kane is pretty nailed on for me. I may end up tripling up on Spurs with those nice fixtures. I'm just looking at them here. They have Huddersfield 34, and then the double game week is Man City away and Brighton at home. So the Man City fixture obviously is not ideal, but that Brighton game looks good as well. Then they've got West Ham, Bournemouth and Everton to finish out the season. So I really like Spurs fixtures. I think they'll finish the season strongly as well in the race for the top four. So I'm going to back Spurs for the run-in. So Kane is likely to be there. I'm very likely to get one of their midfielders as well. It's between Son and Eriksen. And I keep flip-flopping between the two. I really don't know which one of those I'll settle on, but I'm pretty sure I'll have one of them come Friday night. Now, like Spurs, City, all these teams are playing European football midweek. So I'm recording before any Champions League games, before any Europa League games. So I've tinkered this morning quickly, and I'm not going to touch it again until probably Thursday or Friday, because a lot can change with these Champions League games. Injuries, suspensions, things like that. I know Son in particular, if Son picks up a yellow card in that Champions League game tonight, I think he misses the second leg, so that would be a big factor. I'm kind of hoping he gets booked tonight now, so that would probably, something as little as that would sway it in Son's favour for me for my FPL team. So interesting to keep an eye on those bookings as well in the Champions League. So Kane's in, one of Son or Eriksen will be in. And I'm leaning towards Lloris as well, rather than a defender. Again, it's those fixtures. Lloris has been a bit shaky this season. He's been a bit shaky for all of his career, really. But I still like him with those fixtures for Spurs. I do like their defence. There's just a lot of question marks with their defenders. Trippier is always a great option, but how much game time will he get? We know Poch likes to rotate his fullbacks. Vertonghen, a lot of people are sticking Vertonghen into their team as well. He doesn't offer too much going forward. So I just prefer Lloris. I think I'm leaning towards Lloris for defensive cover from Spurs. So at this point, most likely my triple up would be Lloris, Son and Kane. So that's where I'm at the moment. Moving on to the next team now. Just going to try to rattle through these as quick as I can, because I'm conscious that this pod will run on a little bit longer. Wolves have been superb this season. They would be very disappointed to lose that FA Cup tie when they were 2-0 up. But again, Jimenez and Doherty combined in that game, both scored. So, I've had Jimenez since very early in the season. I haven't had him all season, but I got on him at about 5.8 million, and he's been a legend. And I hate myself for getting rid of him on the free hit in 32. But he's back now, and he's going nowhere. I'm just going to hold him for the rest of the season. Play him every week. He's even a captaincy shout for the double game week. So yeah, Jimenez is in. So it's Kane and Jimenez up front, and the big question mark is who will be the third striker alongside them, or will I go 3-5-2? So Jimenez is in. Doherty as well. I sold Doherty quite a few weeks ago. It's probably well over a month ago now that I sold Doherty, but there's a very good chance he'll come back in to my side on Wildcard. He has it all. He's always got clean sheet potential, but it's his attacking threat that is the best thing about Doherty. He's one of the most attacking defenders in the league this season, so I would like to get him back in for the run-in. The third Wolves name I've jotted down here is Jota. No pun intended there. I haven't owned him at all since I owned him for the first 4 game weeks of the season, and it was very disappointing. I went against my rule game week 1 of avoiding promoted teams, but I thought Wolves were a bit of an exception because they were coming up with such a good squad, and Jota was hyped up in pre-season, but it didn't work out. But second half of the season he started to turn it on. So at the moment I'm probably leaning towards just Jimenez and Doherty from Wolves, but I haven't ruled out a triple up either. I'll talk about it when I come to my latest draft. The one part I'm struggling with is the last midfield spot in my team, and I think Jota has it at the moment. So I'll talk about that when I reveal my team towards the end of this. So, yeah, there's nobody really else there at Wolves. I think Jimenez, Doherty and Jota will be the most popular, for most managers on Wildcard. I'm not really looking anywhere else. Moving on to Man City. Now, this is one of the hardest parts I'm finding with the Wildcard is, which City players to go for and how many to go for. I expect City to win the league. So, Liverpool fans listening to this, their ears are going to be burning hearing me say that. But I just think they have too much quality. I think they will win the league. So, in that sense, we should really have 2 or 3 City players. But with Pep Guardiola there, it's just so hard to predict what he's going to do and which teams he's going to put out. They've got a crazy fixture schedule coming up with all the cup competitions. So, at the moment, I think I've only got one City player in my latest draft, and that's Sterling. He's been amazing this season, and I've missed most of his big hauls this season. But he's the one of the big debates I'm having on Wildcard is Sterling versus KDB. So De Bruyne has come back in recent weeks, and he's looked phenomenal in the games that I've seen him in. Some of the balls he's been putting through for the likes of Jesus and that, he looks like he's getting back to close to his best. He has said himself that he's not 100% fit and he's not going to be as good as he was, at this stage last season. But that's not going to put me off him. I still think he will play a very important role for City in the running. So I'm definitely interested. I think it'll be one or the other, Sterling or De Bruyne. I don't think I'll have both. So that's something I'm going to be weighing up for the rest of the week. And obviously I'll be keeping a close eye to see what happens in the Champions League. Which of them play, how do they play, how many minutes do they get, and things like that. So pretty sure I'll go with one City midfielder. Now, I've got Agero written down here as well with a question mark beside his name. I've had him for quite a while and he's done really well for me, but I think I'm probably going to lose him on Wildcard. Just, again, it comes down to minutes and, how much game time is he going to get. There's a lot of striking options. When I compare him to Harry Kane, I know Harry Kane's going to play every game. 99% sure that he will. But I can't say that for Agüero with Jesus lurking around. And especially now that Agüero had a little injury, maybe they're going to have to manage him a little bit. So that puts me off Agüero. I'm not ruling out going for him, but it's very hard to fit him and Kane into the same team. And I'm pretty set on getting Harry Kane. So Agüero may have to miss out. Defensively then, Laporte was a hero for me in the double game week just gone. There's a good chance he may make the cut as well. Now, the City fixtures are not ideal. They've got Palace in 34, and then the double game week is Spurs at home and Man United away. So the one thing though, when I look at double game weeks, when it comes to Man City, I don't really look at who the opponents are. If there's any team that's fixture proof, it is Man City. So those fixtures wouldn't put me off the likes of Laporte or even Ederson. I know some people have mentioned Ederson this week as well. I just think there's possibly some better goalkeeper options at cheaper prices. So I'm probably going to avoid Ederson, but there's a good chance I will stick with Laporte on Wildcard. So that's City. I know there's a lot of other options there at City as well. You've got Bernardo Silva, who gets a lot of game time and things like that. But for me, I think most likely one of Sterling or KDB and Laporte probably. I'll probably go with 2. I can't see myself going with 3 City players. And Agüero, big question mark there. Do I keep him or do I get rid? Moving on to Brighton. So Brighton are the talk of the town because they've got the double-double. They've got double 34 and double 35. So a lot of people are going to have at least 2 Brighton players. A lot of people are going to triple up on Brighton. Now, I currently have Matt Ryan in my latest draft and I have Shane Duffy as well. So I've seen some people go triple, and throw in Lewis Dunk in there as well. I'm just not feeling the love for the triple up in Brighton defence. It's at the end of the day, it's still Brighton. They're not a top team, and I've never, people are talking about captaining Shane Duffy as well. I don't think I will. As much as it would be a beautiful story in FPL if Duffy could get 20 plus points in the double game week, and a lot of people captain him. Some people may even triple captain him, but for me, I've never captained a defender in FPL, and I still don't think I'll do it this week, even with the double game week the way it's fallen for Duffy. Yes, he's great going forward. He's always a goal threat, but it's so easy for teams to concede 2 silly goals, and he's concede 1 goal in each game from a silly corner or something like that. There's always yellow cards for defenders, possible red cards, possible own goals as well. So you have to remember that as well. But I'm just not feeling the love for Duffy captain. So I think he'll be my vice captain. And probably be Harry Kane, I think, captain at Huddersfield. I can't really look past that. But I'll talk about captaincy towards the end of the podcast again. So I've got Ryan, I've got Duffy. I think that'll probably be it for me from Brighton. I'm not gonna put all my eggs in the Brighton basket. There's not much. I don't really like their midfielder attack. Gross is the one I'd be interested in if he was fit, but he hasn't really been fit all season. Even if he was past fit for the weekend, I'd be reluctant because he's come back a few times this season and then he's missed out again. So I just don't want to trust Gross. Glenn Murray, I've never felt the love for Glenn Murray this season either. He did well early in the season, but I just feel at his age, will he play both games in the double game weeks? I just don't think he will. So there's a lot of options there. The guy on Donny looks a good player. I think he could get a start or two over the next 4. So that puts me off Murray as well. I think there's just some other options in the double game week who are more nailed to play both games than Glenn Murray. So that's Brighton. I like Matt Ryan, I like Duffy, but I think that'll probably be it for me. Next up, I've got Cardiff. So Cardiff, like Brighton, have Cardiff have a double 34. But then they play Liverpool in 35. So it's the Liverpool fixture in 35 that really puts me off getting Cardiff players for 34. Because if I'm going to bench boost in 35, I don't want any Cardiff players in that bench boost against Liverpool. So the only one that has any chance of making my wildcard draft is Camarasa. Just because of the set pieces and penalties. But again, I don't like, I've seen a lot of people talking this week about maybe getting a player like Camarasa, or getting a player, a third Brighton defender and then selling them for 35. But I really don't like booking in transfers for future game weeks because there's always things that pop up. You'll get an injury, you'll get a suspension, you'll have something else you need to deal with, which may force you into an unnecessary -4 in my opinion. So that's why I'm just going to avoid, I'm probably just going to avoid Cardiff players completely because I don't want to have to waste a transfer on them in 35 when more than likely there's probably something else I want to do for 35 after we see what happens in 34. So I think Cardiff for me is just a no-go. Moving on to Watford. So I mentioned Glenn Murray, and doubts over him playing, all the games. So I prefer Troy Deeney. I've dished Troy Deeney a few times on the Fantasy Weekly podcast. But I may have to swallow my pride and get in a human being that I don't particularly like, and just get him in for his FPL prospects. So I think he is a very good option. He's on penalties. Watford have been good this season. That was a great win against, a great comeback win against Wolves in the Cup. I think Deeney scored a penalty in that game. So, for me, when it comes to Watford, really it's between Deeney and Deulofeu. I don't want both. I don't fancy the double up. But I think I'm leaning towards Deeney. I just feel he's probably more secure of getting, a lot of minutes in the next couple of games. Deulofeu, I think, may have a knock now as well after that FA Cup game, so that's definitely one to keep an eye on Friday if you are considering the Spaniard. So I'm leaning towards Deeney as my cheap third striker on Wildcard. I think Foster in goal is another, a lot of people are looking at the Ryan Foster double up on Wildcard. I'm just not feeling it for Foster either, which is why I'm thinking about going Ryan Lloris instead. Just looking at Foster's clean sheets, he hasn't kept a clean sheet in the last 6 league games. Yes, he can rack up the save points, but I don't trust the Watford defence. And when it comes to goalkeepers, I'm looking for clean sheets first and foremost, and I would much rather have Lloris than Ben Foster. That's the way I'm looking at it. So I've found with my wildcard this week, once I took out Salah, I took out Hazard, money really doesn't seem to be an issue. I think that latest draft I put together, I've got about 1.5 million in the bank, so there's no issue for me going, Lloris over Foster for financial reasons. So that's where I am with Watford. One more Watford player I'll throw in for people on bench boost 35 like myself. If you are looking to, save a few bob, I think Will Hughes at 4.9 million could be a decent bench boost option. I think he's played the last 2 games. He got a goal and assist in the last game week. So I do like Will Hughes for the bench boost if you're looking to save a few bob. I took a ride on the Holobas roller coaster earlier in the season, and I don't fancy taking another one because it was an absolute disaster. You just don't know what you're going to get with Holobas. It can be anything from -3 to 15 points in any given game week. So I just don't like the risk of him getting sent off or he always gets booked as well. So I don't like that. And again, clean sheets. I'm not expecting too many from Watford. So Holobas is pushing on in age as well. I think he's about 34, 35 as well. So again, that's another reason to suspect that maybe he won't get all the games over the next couple of weeks. So I'm not going to go there either. So Watford, I think probably most likely just Troy Deeney for me. The next team I'll talk about is Man United. I had a question from FPL King on United, a fellow United fan like myself. He just said, what are my thoughts on United now ahead of the next couple of weeks? The United have West Ham at home in game week 34, so a very attractive fixture there. But the double game week fixture, it's Everton away and Man City at home, and then it's Chelsea afterwards as well. So a tough run of games for Solskjaer and his troops. So I'm really not overly keen on United. I probably got blinkered by them. My allegiances in the free hit. I had Smalling, Lindelof and Pogba, and they broke my heart in that week. So I'm not going to make the same mistake again. I think the only United player that I'm interested in is Rashford, and it really depends on his fitness. And even at that, I even think someone like Troy Deeney, I may well just go with Troy Deeney over someone like Rashford. So defensively, absolutely no interest in United. Pogba, 5 blanks in the last 6 games. No interest in him either. He's gone. And I doubt I'll be going back to him for the rest of the season. The only other one from United who slightly interests me is Martial, but again, it's fitness. Can we trust him fitness-wise? If he was 100% fit between now and the end of the season, I think he could score very well. But for me, it just feels too risky with the way he's been this season, in and out of the team with injuries. So again, very good chance I'll go with 0 United players on my wildcard, which a couple of weeks ago, if you said that to me, I would say no chance, but that's the way things have gone with United in recent weeks. Next up is Southampton. So I think anyone who's playing a wildcard this week or next week, we're all going to be Southampton fans for the rest of the season. So Southampton have got Wolves at home this weekend, and then the double game week, they've got Newcastle away and Watford away. And if I look a little bit further ahead as well, to finish out the season, Southampton have got Bournemouth, West Ham and Huddersfield. So they've got a very nice run. They don't play any of the top 6 for the rest of the season. So that's what the big attraction is there with the Saints. So this is the team where I've actually jotted down the most names beside them. So I've got Ward-Prowse here, Valerie, Bednarek, the goalkeeper Angus Gunn, Bertrand, Yoshida, Højbjerg, Redmond, Danny Ings. There's loads of budget options here. I think Southampton are a team to target if you're like me and you're going to bench boost in 35. So picking through some of those names, I think Ward-Prowse will be in my wildcard squad. He was I think he scored 6 goals and 9 at one point there, over the last couple of months. He's got the set pieces. He plays close to 90 minutes every week, which is a big attraction there for him. So I think Ward-Prowse will go in. I'll probably have a defender as well, just a cheap defender for the bench boost. More than likely Valerie. I think he's probably offers more of an attacking threat than Bednarek, and Yoshida's cheap as well. He's played the last couple of games too, so there's lots of options there. Someone who hasn't been mentioned too much on social media I've seen this week is Ryan Bertrand. He's a little bit more expensive, 4.8 million. Started the last 5 games. He'll play the left wing back role on the other side to Valerie. So if I've got a few bob extra lying around on Friday, I may just go upgrade Valerie to Ryan Bertrand. I think Bertrand possibly offers more of an attacking threat than Valerie. I know Valerie scored 2 goals back to back recently, but I think Bertrand could be a nice differential for the end of the season that not many people will own. So just want to throw him in there as well. Højbjerg 4.4. Again, if you're bench boosting and you don't have much cash, I think he's a good option. He's got some good attacking stats recently. He's got the odd goal and assist in him as well. Redmond I don't really like, but it's mainly because he burned me big time before in FPL. It wasn't this season, it was previous season. So he's on my no buy list. I've got a no buy list of FPL players, and he's on that one from previous seasons. So I prefer Ward-Prowse just for the set pieces there. Danny Ings, can't really trust him. A bit like Martial, too many injury problems. I don't want to put my trust in Danny Ings. He could break down at any time. He's like Arnautovic. So for me, when it comes to Southampton, I think Ward-Prowse will be in there and a defender. So it'll probably be either Valerie or Ryan Bertrand. The last team now with a double game week 35 is Arsenal. Now, my first draft that I put together on Friday night after the Liverpool game was Kolasinac was in it. But now I've got no Arsenal players. I just don't trust them defensively. And Kolasinac came off, I think he came off at half-time in that Everton game as well, which is not a good sign that when Emery changed to 4 at the back, he trusted Monreal to play left-back rather than Kolasinac, as far as I know. Now, I didn't see that game, but that was just the reports I've read. I need to double-check that. But I don't like that sign of Kolasinac getting taken off at half-time if things are not going well. So he is probably the most likely I'll go for, Kolasinac, but I think there's more chance that I'll go with no Arsenal players now. Aubameyang, just too much cash, not getting enough minutes. Lacazette has been very consistent, but again, can we trust Emery to play Lacazette every week, especially with Europa League? If they can get past Napoli, I would expect them to prioritise that tournament then, so we could see more rotation in the league from Arsenal. Leno, again, I don't like him. Clean sheets, there's not enough clean sheets there from Arsenal, so I don't like Leno. I prefer, the likes of Ryan, Lloris. And I've just, beside Arsenal here, I've just got midfield written down with a question mark beside it. So I'll be watching closely what happens Europa League. Ramsey, Mkhitaryan, these guys, if it looked like they were going to get significant game time over the next few weeks, I think Ramsey in particular is the one I'd be interested in. And I mentioned that the final midfield spot is in my team is the one I'm struggling with. I've got Jota there at the moment, but Jota could easily become someone like Ramsey if it looked like Ramsey was going to get a lot of game time. So that is something I need to mull over between now and in the weekend, is do I take a punt on an Arsenal midfielder? So that is the double game week teams covered. I'm just going to touch now on a few of the single game week teams before I reveal my latest draft. So I had a couple of questions. One from Rory McGlinchey. He was just asking, am I going to keep any single game weekers for the next few weeks? And another one from Lee Giles. He was just asking, are the Liverpool single game week assets worth keeping as well, given that they're fighting for the league title? So a couple of teams here. The only single game week teams I'm really interested in are Liverpool, Leicester. I've got a question mark here beside Bournemouth because they've got good fixtures, and I've got a question mark beside Hazard as well, just because of what he's done in the last 2 game weeks. So Liverpool, first of all, despite not having a double game week, they've got Chelsea this weekend, but then they've got a nice run. They've got Cardiff, Huddersfield, Newcastle and Wolves to finish out the season. So I'm definitely not going to ignore Liverpool. Salah's gone for me, but I think I'll keep Mane on Wildcard. I'm going to keep Robertson as well. I just see absolutely no reason to get rid of Robertson when he's performed so well for me and for many this season. So I think I'll definitely have 2 Liverpool, Robertson and Mane. The question is, do I triple up or do I just stick with 2? So if I triple up, it would probably be Alexander-Arnold. So go the double up in defence. So that would mean then, really, when it comes to bench boost 35, you're going in with Liverpool single game weekers, but they play Cardiff away, so it's a good fixture. So I'd probably rather have a couple of Liverpool players on a bench boost in a single rather than some of the double game week options. So that's something I need to weigh up. I think most likely what I'll do is just stick with Mane and Robertson and avoid the triple up for the time being. Van Dijk's always an option as well. Firmino's found a bit of form too, so there's lots of options there for Liverpool. I definitely wouldn't ignore them. I've seen some people going without Liverpool completely on the wild card, and I just feel a team challenging for the title. I wouldn't say it's wrong. It could obviously pay off if Liverpool start to choke, which I hope they do as a Man United fan. But I still think they will run City very close to the title. So I do want to keep a hold of those assets. I think they'll do well between now and the end of the season. So Mane and Robertson, I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep both of those guys. Leicester as well. Leicester have been flying under Rodgers. I think they've won the last 4 now. And Vardy has done very well for me. He got me 16 points at the weekend. So it's very, very hard to sell a player after he's just scored you 16 points. But I think he will go for a double game week player. Leicester's fixtures, they've got Newcastle at home next, and then West Ham away in the double 35. So it's 2 nice fixtures for Vardy, but then it gets tough. It's Arsenal, City and Chelsea to finish out the season. So I think that's why I'll end up getting rid of Vardy, just because of those last 3 games of the season, even though he does perform well against the top 6. But I think there is a case to be made for keeping Vardy. I think anyone who keeps Vardy on Wildcard, it could easily pay off, but I think I'll end up just shipping him. Maddison as well, you could make the same arguments for Maddison as you do for Vardy, for Tielemans as well. They could just continue to deliver. I think Leicester will just finish out the season strongly. So I just wanted to mention those guys there as well. Hazard, again, another player, very hard to sell him after he's done very well last 2 game weeks, but Hazard's gone for me. I was always going to sell him on Wildcard with the fixtures for Chelsea. Take the points and run. It's Liverpool away next, Burnley at home, nice fixture in the double, but again, Burnley are fighting for their lives, so and then it's Man United away in 36 for Chelsea. So I'm just gonna avoid Chelsea for the next couple of game weeks. Bournemouth, question mark, good fixtures, but they really do look like they're on the beach the last couple of weeks, so I think I'm going to completely avoid Bournemouth as well. People will know my troubles with Callum Olsen. Again, no goals from him again in the most recent game week. So I've over the course of the season, he's been in my team for 5 game weeks and he scored 0 goals. So goodbye, Callum. Anyone who decides to keep him, enjoy the points, because no doubt they will roll in now that he's gone from my team again. So that is the team. That's my wildcard watch list summed up for this week. So I've probably mentioned most of these already, but the latest draft I put together today, now I won't touch this again until probably Friday after the European games. Lloris and Ryan as the goalkeeper double up. Duffy, Robertson, Doherty, Laporte and Valerie in defence. A midfield of Mane, De Bruyne, Son, Jota and Ward-Prowse. And then up front, Kane, Jimenez and Dini. So I don't think this will change too much come Friday. The main thing that will change is probably the midfield. It's either KDB or Sterling. Son versus Eriksen is another one I'm weighing up. And Jota, I'm not sure I want to go triple Wolves. I'm probably going to go Doherty and Jimenez. So I'm not sure if I want Jota. And again, there's a couple of other options. The Arsenal assets in midfield. So need to see what happens midweek really with that last midfield spot. So that's where I'm at on Tuesday morning. Again, it will change, but I don't think it will change too much before Friday night. Friday night deadline again this week as well. I should mention that. Don't get caught out by the early deadline. A lot of people did last week. Ben Foster himself got caught out by the deadline. That's enough for me to avoid Ben Foster. I don't want a player in my FPL team who doesn't even know when the FPL deadlines are. So that is what I'm thinking. So I'm just going to pause this for a second and get a drink of water because my throat's getting very dry here. Right, that's me back. I'm just going to run through. I've just noticed I'm already over half an hour in this pod, so I'm going to rattle through these questions quick fire. So the first one is from Paul. He asks, Kane/Agero, should we go both of them or neither? So I'm going to answer. I think I'm just going to go Kane. I'm going to avoid Agüero. I think it's very hard to fit in both. So Kane for me, this is his time of the season. He usually turns it on to go for that golden boot, and it's the fixtures though mainly which I like for Kane. So Kane over Agüero for me. Second question from Frank Walsh: is the Spurs triple up valid, or are we falling for a double game week allure again when they haven't been on fire form wise? Yes, Spurs haven't been pulling up any trees recently, but again, I just keep harping on about those fixtures. They've got great fixtures, and with great fixtures can come get great form. So I do think the Spurs triple up is valid. I'm not sure yet if I will do it, but there is a very good chance I'll go Lloris, Son, or Eriksen and Kane. So yeah, I do think it is valid. I just think with that Champions League race, they've got to finish the season strongly to guarantee that top 4. So again, always good to target teams at this stage of the season who still have something to play for, and Spurs definitely do. Next question from FPL DJ. He asks Jota, JWP or Deulofeu for the double game week. So at the moment I've got Jota and Ward-Prowse in my draft, but I think the one that's most likely to stay there is Ward-Prowse. I just like him. Out of those three, I think he'll play the most minutes between now and end of the season. Set pieces, Southampton have still got, they're still fighting as well. So I think I like him most out of all three. Deulofeu, I just think Deeney is possibly more nailed on in that team. So that's why I'm probably going to avoid Deulofeu. I think Jota is a great option as well, but I'm just not sure on the Wolves triple up. So for me, out of those three, Ward-Prowse gets my vote there. Next question was from Marco Juvenin, and Rory also asked this question as well. Again, and a question I'm going to ask myself for the rest of the week, Son or Eriksen. So I've got Son at the moment. Eriksen has, he's performed very well recently. I think he was the top scorer in the double game week just gone. So two viable options. If I had to guess which one would play more minutes between now and end of the season, I would probably say Eriksen. I just feel he's probably more nailed on in the role that he is in the team. I think with Son, there's probably alternatives there that Pochettino can use. But I do think this yellow card thing in the Champions League could be huge. If Son gets booked tonight or tomorrow, whenever that Spurs game is on, that means he would miss the second leg Champions League, which would probably make him more nailed on in the Premier League. So I think something as small as a yellow card for Son could be big news for us in FPL. So at the moment, Son's in my latest draft, but again, I'm really, it really is a coin toss, I think, between those two. And I think I'm probably going to flip-flop between the two for the rest of the week. But I think if I had to pull the trigger now, lock my team in for the weekend, it probably would be Son. Next question was from Gavin. Would I avoid Arsenal altogether now? And he mentions Ramsey. What about Ramsey as an Uber differential? So Gavin thinks Ramsey is nailed on now, in his opinion, after the Everton loss. So yeah, Ramsey didn't start that game. I think he came on at half time, which suggests maybe getting the best team on the pitch to try and claw the game back. So would I avoid Arsenal altogether now? I think it is viable. It's something I may end up doing. I don't think I'll go for Kolasinac now, and there's a good chance I'll avoid Ramsey as well, just because I want to get players who I know will get a lot of minutes, and by the weekend I don't think we're going to know that about Ramsey. So I do think it's viable to go without Arsenal. I think that's what I'll end up doing. Last question I will tackle is from Ashley Lloyd. Again, I probably covered this already, but he's talking about going triple Brighton defence and then sell one of them for 35. So again, this comes back to the booking in a transfer for 35. So I just don't like that. I don't like, having a transfer in mind already for 35 when I know something else will go wrong, or there's another player who I want for double game week 35 who I won't include this week on Wildcard. So for that reason, I don't like triple Brighton defence. I don't want to have triple Brighton defence for 35, so I'm not going to go triple Brighton defence in 34 for that reason. Moving on quickly to the captaincy poll. So I put a tweet up last night on Twitter. Who is the best captain for Game Week 34? I included Kane, Duffy, Vardy, and I also included other for people just to mention a few other names as well. So Kane ran away with the vote with 60%. Duffy got 21%. Vardy got 13%. And other was 6% then. So that Huddersfield at home, a relegated Huddersfield at home in the new stadium for Harry Kane. He didn't score in the first game, so he's going to be even more eager to get on the score sheet in the next home game. So I agree with the poll here. I'm going to go Kane captain, I'm pretty sure. I just can't look past Huddersfield at home, who are already relegated. Kane going for the golden boot. Spurs going for top 4. As much as Duffy is tempting with a double game week, I'm going to back Kane to outscore Duffy with one fixture. I think Duffy will be my vice captain. So if anything went wrong, if Kane picked up the sniffles before the weekend, I'll be all in on Duffy captain. So yeah, that's what it is for me. I think it's between those two this week really. If you're on a wild card, Kane or Duffy probably. So I'm going to go Kane. pretty sure I won't change my mind before the weekend. But again, good luck to anyone who does go for Duffy. There's a lot of reasons, there's a lot of arguments for going for Shane Duffy. Just don't look at my Twitter feed today, because I'm after posting a video of, I think it was 2016, where Shane Duffy, I think it was Blackburn he was playing for, in one game scored 2 own goals and got sent off. So I think that'd be about -6 in FPL. So let's hope something like that doesn't happen in the double game week for anyone who does captain him or triple captain him. And good luck to those who do. But for me, Harry Kane all the way. I think I've covered everything I wanted to with game week 34 and 35 in mind. So just a few housekeeping things to finish up. If you enjoy my content and you want to support me, you can do so on Patreon. It's at patreon.com/FPL General. As most people know, I've been doing this fantasy football stuff full time this season, so any support on Patreon, no matter how big or small, is very much appreciated, and it will help me to continue to do this hopefully next season as well, full time, and continue to live the dream. As always, early in a month is always the best time to sign up on Patreon, because you can get a free trial essentially. As long as you cancel before the 1st of May, you can try out the Slack channel, the WhatsApp offering, and the extra content, the live streams and everything. Maybe if you're thinking about giving Patreon a go next season, April is a good time to give it a free trial. So any questions you have, just send me a message on Twitter and I can give you more information if need be. As always, I will be playing on Fantasy Bet this weekend, and I think on Fantasy Bet this weekend I won't captain Duffy in FPL, but I think I will captain him in the Grand Weekend tournament on Fantasy Bet. So I'll kind of hedge my bets there. As always, 18 plus on Fantasy Bet and begambleaware.org. So the Grand Weekend tournament this weekend, it doesn't include the Friday game, so you've got plenty of time. Once the FPL deadline passes, you've got Friday night, you've got Saturday morning to put your team together on Fantasy Bet, and we get the team news as well. The deadline's not until 2:52 on Saturday, so you've got the 3 o'clock team news as well. No, I'm actually wrong there, because there's an early kickoff on Saturday, but you'll have the team news for the Saturday kickoff, and then you can put your team together for that one. So good luck to all competing in the Grand Weekend. I think that is everything. One last thing, be sure to keep an eye out for the Fantasy Weekly podcast. I was away last week, so James recorded with Ben Dinnery, a very enjoyable podcast. If you hasn't listened to that one yet, a very good pod to get an insight into the life and times of Ben Dinnery and what he does outside of FPL as well. So myself and James recorded a Fantasy Weekly episode last night, so all about, James is on his Wildcard as well, so a lot of Wildcard talk on that one, so I'll tweet that out when it's ready. Again, don't miss the deadline, Friday deadline this week. Enjoy the rest of your week, and good luck in Game Week 34, particularly to those who are going to back Shane Duffy.